Every year on August 12th, the world commemorates International Youth Day, an occasion which raises awareness about the affairs and contributions of the world's youth.
This year, with their futures and advisory affected by the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, the international community will highlight youth engagement for global action and changes. More details in the following report.
Designated by the United Nations as a day of awareness, the International Youth Day, which is marked annually on August 12th, holds the purpose of garnering attention on youth affairs, including cultural and legal issues surrounding the world's youth. The first International Youth Day was observed on August 12th in the year of 2000. In the 2 decades since, August 12th has become a day which presents a significant opportunity to celebrate as well as highlight the youth's voices, actions, and initiatives, in addition to their meaningful, universal, and equal engagement. In 2020, the International Youth Day comes with special significance as the world is uniting to combat the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, a disease that has had a profound impact on the world's youth, their livelihoods, education, and future. This year's theme is entitled Youth Engagement for Global Action and is aimed at placing the spotlight on the youth's engagement in the local, national, and global levels, as well as further enhancing youth representation and participation in politics. The United Nations, as well as some of the world's most prominent organizations and agencies, including the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, or UNICEF, strive to give priority and humanitarian aid to the youth, a reflection of their firm belief in their role in shaping the world's future. As part of the largest generation in history, today's youth wield tremendous power and influence in bringing change, bolstering global peace and security, and finding solutions to the world's biggest crises.
We have our guest tonight, Naseem Awl, the Deputy Representative for the UNICEF Gulf Area Office, to share with us details on how COVID-19 affects all segments of the population, with young people playing a key role in the management of this outbreak and recovery following the outbreak. Good evening, Naseem, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Could you tell us how were the young people affected by COVID-19 and what aspects of their lives were most affected?
Yes, thank you. Certainly, as we celebrate and mark the International Youth Day, we do stop and think about how this year is very different because of COVID-19. To my mind, already 3 things come up. One is, of course, the big ways in which the lives of young people have been affected in terms of their education. This disruption has really changed the ways in which we think about their skills that they're acquiring as well as their future. The second thing is that, as we know, educational institutions and places of learning are not just about the education that young people are receiving. It's also about the networks and the connections that they have with their friends, with their peers, and their community. So this lack of a social network that many young people are facing is another key issue that we think about. And of course, we think about all the ways in which there have been delays in their lives, the milestones that they usually look forward to, graduation, summer trips, getting that first job, participating in a training of some kind. These are all things that young people have had to think about in new ways and to adapt.
Thank you. Okay. Now, since we are talking about the adolescents, could you tell us more about what could be the positive outcomes for youth that would come out of this pandemic?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest silver linings is the ways in which young people and adolescents are very tech savvy. They're very engaged digitally. They've been very resilient in the pandemic to organize their peers, to share correct information, to really make sure that the public health messages that we're all trying to disseminate are reaching their fellow friends and their communities. The second thing is that they're really in a good place to tell us what's working in all these new services we're providing. Is online education working the way they want it to? How can we make that different? They can also be at the forefront of all the changes we're seeing in the job market. The industries are changing. We can also encourage them to make sure that they are part of this revolution in terms of markets and jobs and innovation. So really, this perhaps is the one silver lining, is that young people can really be not just the most affected, but also those who are leading us out of this pandemic.
Ms. Awl, before I let you leave, one final question. What is the UNICEF and the state of Kuwait doing to remedy the negative effectiveness of the COVID-19 on the same subject, which is the adolescents?
Thank you. Very briefly, I would say that number one, we're so excited because Kuwait, UNICEF has just opened its offices in Kuwait. And one of the things we're really looking forward to working with our government partners and supporting them in their leadership to make sure that every young person continues to be invested in from the first moment all the way to these things that we talked about, their first job and so on. And during this pandemic, the things that we're trying to really bring experiences from around the world and our field offices from every part of the globe are those things that we talked about, how to make distance learning better, things like thinking about how to make the opening of schools safe, to see all these innovations that are coming up in places like Kuwait around service provision, new ways of delivering healthcare to young people, thinking about the ways that we share information about nutrition in these difficult times. This is a big crisis, but there are also big opportunities, and UNICEF is really looking forward to working in a much bigger way with its national partners like KFAS and the Kuwait Fund, as well as all of our sister UN agencies under the leadership of the government to make sure this crisis is also a real opportunity for the young people of Kuwait.
Ms. Awl, I appreciate your input, and thank you so much for being with us on KTV2 News. Thank you so much.